Hi PCC family. So I wasn't able to record the Zoom meeting last night for the sewing machine tutorial and simple stitches. So I'm just going to go ahead and do another one right now. Here we go. So this is my little workhorse sewing machine. This model is actually discontinued. It's very old. But it's a very, very simple one, easy to teach on. So I've labeled everything we're going to go over, and let's just get started. Okay, so down here, this is your needle right here. This is the presser foot. That's moving up and down. This is the needle plate. And then these guys right down here below the presser foot that move up and down with the needle are called feed dogs, and they are what pulls the fabric through your machine while you're sewing. I'm going to take off our accessory storage, which also gives you a skinnier work surface for sewing sleeves and pants and things of that nature. My accessory drawer has a little hideaway storage area for all of my machine needles, bobbins, sewing machine oil, other presser feet to change out for different tasks and things of that nature. Okay, so underneath our presser foot and everything, we have the bobbin housing. So this is the bobbin housing, this guy and this. This is where your bobbin lives. There's no bobbin in there currently, so I'm going to show you how to thread this machine in a second after I show you how to wind the bobbin. These are bobbins. My machine takes both of these kinds, but I'm going to show you how to wind on this clear one over here. And then I wanted to show you different kinds of needles. So the gauge on a needle is this little number over here. So this orange one is an 11. What I've got in my machine right now is a 14. That's what I prefer to use for just normal everyday sewing. 11s are used for more delicate fabric like chiffons and organzas and just really, really delicate fabrics. And then 16s are used for heavier duty fabrics like canvas and things of that nature. Okay, here we go. We have our reverse lever, which does exactly what it says. It makes the machine sew in reverse for back stitching. I'll show you how to use that when we get to stitching the straight stitch. This is your thread take up lever right here, that guy. And your presser foot pressure adjustment, which can be adjusted with a penny, like so on my machine. Not all of these things are the same on other machines, but what that does is adjusts how much pressure this guy is putting on the needle plate when you are sewing. So sometimes if you're having an issue with sewing, it might be that you need to adjust your presser foot adjustment. That's a lot to say, you guys, because it might be too tight or too loose for whatever fabric you're actually sewing. That's the gist of that. Okay, so here we've got the horizontal spool pin that holds your thread, and then the upper thread guide. So on my machine, what you do is you follow the solid arrows to thread the machine, and then you follow the dotted lines to wind a bobbin. And I'll show you how to do that in just a second. Here's your bobbin winder. It locks in place like that. Every machine should have a way to adjust the thread tension. This is how taut the thread is going through your machine right here. Sometimes that can be the reason why your sewing gets all wonky, because your thread tension is off for whatever you are sewing. Sometimes this has to be adjusted based on what kind of fabric you're using. For the most part, if you have an auto setting, that's going to be the correct setting. So that's where we are right now. Stitch width does exactly what it said. It's how wide the stitch is this way, just like that. Like when you're doing a zigzag stitch, which I will show you how to do, it's how tall your zigzag is. And then stitch length is how close your stitches are together, just like this indicates. So this is a longer stitch and this is a shorter stitch. This is a wider stitch and this is a narrower stitch. My machine does all different kinds of thread patterns, but right now we're just going to do the straight stitch, A, and B for a zigzag. Right now with my pattern indicator window you can see we are set for a straight stitch. And then over on this side of my machine, the hand wheel, pattern selector, and power switch. This is specific to my machine for making buttonholes, so we're not, just ignore that. Your machine may not have that at all, so we're not even going to go over that. But the hand wheel is manual moving of the sewing machine. So if you get stuck or if you just need to do like 1 or 2 stitches at a time, you use the hand wheel instead of the actual foot. And there's Benny keeping my foot company. Isn't it great? So what you do with this guy when the machine is on, excuse me, Benny, I'm so sorry. I don't think mine actually has speed control. Some machines have speed control to where your machine can go faster or slower. So it's a little bit more comfortable for you. Mine does not have that. It just goes 1 speed. Sorry, Benny. Trying to get it all situated again. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is get you guys set up so you can see how I show you how to wind a bobbin. Please excuse all the camouflage in the background. Joshua and I are doing a little bit of a home ec class, so I'm teaching him some sewing machine basics so that he can do it himself. Okay, so you're going to take your empty bobbin. On my machine, like I said before, you follow, it may be completely different on your machine, so just look at your user guide. It should show you exactly how to do it. You take the thread from the horizontal spool, it goes through and around the bobbin thread guide, which actually does have tension control, so you want to make sure that it actually gets locked in there. So I usually pull it tight on both sides. So now the tension is on there so that you won't have loosey-goosey threads on your bobbin. And then, see how there are holes on the bobbin? You actually come up through one of them. It does not matter which one. Place your bobbin on the bobbin winder and then push it over. If you don't push it over, your machine will actually run while you are trying to wind your bobbin, and it can mess up your machine. So now we've locked it in place so that the needle won't move up and down. All that's going to happen is our bobbin is going to wind. You hold the thread up at the top while it does that for a little bit. Heidi likes to cut it off at some point so it doesn't get all crazy. And most machines will actually stop once they reach this point. This is the bobbin stopper. I had a machine once that function did not actually work, so it would overwind my bobbin, and then I couldn't get my bobbin into my machine because it was too full. Okay, yeah, when it starts doing that, it's full. Unlock it, pull it up, cut it, and then you've got a bobbin. While we're here, I'm going to show you how to put the bobbin into the bobbin housing. So here's your bobbin housing. See this little notch up at the top right here? Your thread is going to end up in there. So with my machine, not all machines are the same way, but with my machine, you have to load it where the thread is actually going counterclockwise. So see how my thread starts over there and is coming this way. So you drop it into the bobbin housing. You grab your little thread that's sticking out and pull it through the little notch and make sure it slides into that entire thing and is sticking out of that. Pull it up so you got a tail so that the needle can grab it when it's back in the bobbin housing. And here, to get back into the bobbin housing, here is, see how the notch lines up just perfectly like that, and push in until it clicks into place like so. You leave the little thread out. Now I'm going to show you how to thread this machine. Alrighty. My iPad will cooperate. Okay. So now you undo it from the bobbin winding settings. And you go through the upper thread guide, come down this way. You have to make sure that your thread take up lever, this guy, is hanging out. So you go underneath, around. See how it's now caught in the thread take up lever? Then you come back down the thread take up lever. And then get close up down here. There's actually a thing that has to get caught right here. Get it together, focus. Right? This guy right here. See how it's caught behind it? And then there's another one right there. This is very hard to do one-handed, guys. There. Right there. Just above the needle. And then you're going to find the end of your thread, Miss Heidi. And you're going to thread the needle front to back, like so. Miss Heidi's machine has a super fancy needle threading helper thingy doodad that she does not know how to use, so she cannot show you how to use it. I'm so sorry. A lot of modern machines come with those, and I don't know how. It's too complicated for me. This guy right here is apparently a magic needle thread helper aid thing, and I don't know how to use it. Okay. So now we've got the needle threaded front to back, making sure it's not caught on anything. Go into the middle of your presser foot. And then what you're going to do is you're going to move your hand wheel forward so that your needle goes down, and it will actually catch the bobbin thread for you. See how the thread is going down like that? And then when you pull this thread, sorry friends, when you pull this thread, the bobbin thread should come up with you. See? Now there's two threads. Ta-da! Now your bobbin thread is up on the top of your machine. Grand. Okay. And then you close all of this up. Miss Heidi likes to work with her accessory arm, so that's going to go back down. See if we can get Miss Heidi's iPad to figure out how to focus, guys. Sorry. Come on. There we go. We're back in business. Okay. So, and that is how to thread a sewing machine. Now we're going to do a very basic straight stitch. I think this is probably the best view for you guys. I highly recommend, if you're just starting out, to just use plain cotton fabrics that don't have any kind of stretch to them, because stretch is super complicated to learn how to sew with in the first place. You need special needles, and you have to have all the settings just right on your machine. and it's a huge pain in the butt. So I'm just going to show you how to do a straight stitch. Oh, these guys right here, if you can see right here, I have actually marked, they're kind of dark, but the lines that are already etched right there on my needle plate, I mark them on my machine so that I know what the distance is. And the distance that I have marked is from the middle of the presser foot, where the needle is in the center, to that line. And that's your seam allowance. So when it calls for like a 5/8 seam allowance, you want the edge of your fabric, like so, to line up with the 5/8 line over here while you're sewing the whole time, so that you know that the space from where you've sewn to the edge of your fabric is going to be 5/8 of an inch. And it starts at 3/8, goes to 1/2, 5/8, 3/4, 7/8, and it goes all the way up to an inch on my machine. And just a little tidbit, the edge of your foot right here, if you just line up the edge of your fabric with the edge of the foot while you're sewing, is 1/4 of an inch. Okay, oops, let's zoom back out a little bit so you guys can kind of see what's going on. All right, so like I told you guys before, my machine was already set and ready for a straight stitch. So this is what we're going to do. I've folded my fabric in half so that you can see that I'm actually doing some sorry, threads are getting all wonky. Okay, so and I am actually going to do it at 5/8 of an inch because that's what I am typically used to doing. You're going to put your presser foot down. I was taught to always start with the needle in the fabric, so that's how I'm going to teach you guys how to do it. And then you're going to very, very slowly, you have to watch this and make sure your edge stays with your 5/8 inch the whole time. And then you're going to be very easy on the foot down here, the go-go pedal. The pedal, there we go. All right. And now, like I told you I would show you before, we're going to press reverse, and we're going to do just a couple of stitches backwards, and you just hold on to it so it stays nice and straight, and then go back again after the back stitching and continue sewing. And now what that has done is that has locked your stitch line in place, so the threads won't pull out unless you want to go in and rip them with the seam ripper. Okay, so then you just keep following the guide right here, making sure that the edge of your fabric stays lined up with that line while you sew. And then when you get to the end, I'm going to press that reverse foot again. Do a couple of stitches to lock it in place. Oh, and I forgot to show you guys my thread cutter. Check it out. So I've got this guy over here. Super handy dandy. Most machines have this on the side of them or on the back of them somewhere. So instead of always having to know where your scissors are to just cut those two threads, that's what you do. All right, and there we have a straight stitch with 5/8 inch seam allowance there at the top, 5/8 of an inch right there. Now, we're going to set the machine up. Zigzag stitch. Okay, so as you can see, zigzag is pattern B. So I'm going to, my pattern indicator wheel, I'm going to change to B. And then up here, what you have to do is actually change your width, because this is the needle placement. So as I'm changing the width, watch what happens to the needle. It slides over to the side. So this is centered at 0, and this is at 5, all the way over to the right. So we're set at 5 for all the way over, and then I'm going to do a, let's see, we'll do a 2. I'll actually show you what it does. So on 3, this is a fairly normal zigzag stitch on a 3. going to do it with my presser foot right up against the edge of my old line. Let's zoom in so you guys can see a little bit better. There we go. See how the needle moves back and forth? You can also reverse on a zigzag stitch. Okay, so that's on a 3. I'm going to change our stitch length to a 2 so you can see what that does. So now this is, oops, my machine came unplugged. Hold please. There we go. All right, so on a 2, you can see it's gotten narrower. And then on a 1, it's going to be even tighter. So that is what the stitch length does to your zigzag stitch. And if you want your zigzag to be shorter, you adjust the width. This is on a 3 instead of a 5. See how much smaller the zigzag has gotten? And if we go all the way down to a 1 for our stitch width, tiny, tiny, tiny zigzags. Lift up your presser foot, pull it out, thread cutter. And there is a zigzag stitch in various stages. Hooray! Okay. If you guys have any questions or anything like that, feel free to email me. I'm always happy to help people learn how to do this very, very useful skill. I don't really have a whole lot of time for it most of the time. That's why I was really happy to do this video so that people could kind of get a head start for themselves, and then we could do problem troubleshooting after people have kind of seen the very basics. So email me if you guys have questions. I'm always happy to answer, and I hope to see you guys soon. Bye!